is establishing a bank account and be being a good customer of a bank. What that means is just making sure you're not overdrawn too much. You're making sure you're paying your fees if there are fees or penalties that are incurred, versus overdrawing your account and switching bank to bank, because that does follow you and will eventually catch up to you and hurt you, especially when you're trying to get a loan. After establishing a bank account, it's easier to track your expenses because of your monthly bank statements, or keeping your, because you could also keep your receipts and such, but that's probably a little bit more difficult. I would be bad at that, as I'm bad at organizing. But establishing a good budget is a good practice for everybody, not only folks that are trying to get a loan, but just good for financial purposes, for retirement or goals aside, setting a budget for a vacation or a new car or whatnot. But obviously this is for mortgage purposes. So we'll go over that, and ZZ has a great tool that he's created, but there's also online ones that track your expenses, such as mint.com, as they mentioned on Monday. And I'll let ZZ go from there.
Yeah, so with that piece, I won't touch on it too much from here, as we'll go through kind of a visual explanation of kind of what I'm talking about with the budget that I use myself. And so just understand the importance of budgeting and making sure that you set something that's attainable to yourself. But we will dive into that later on in this session. And so once you kind of get your account relationship set up and start identifying yourself with a relationship style bank or whoever you're looking to kind of start doing business with in your financial world, you want to start to establish some kind of credit. Establishing credit can be kind of completed in multiple different ways. You can go to your local bank and try to establish some kind of credit card with them. Or you can go into department stores. That's a very easy one to obtain and start getting a credit or like a line of credit for that store, such as, Macy's or TJ Maxx or whoever offers those in-store credit cards. That allows you to get a card, use it, repay it, and start to build your credit history. Your credit history ties into how your credit score is created and how your credit score is represented to lenders and different financial institutions when it comes to purchasing your first home. And they look at kind of your repayment history, making sure everything is kind of up to date without any missed payments or delinquent accounts, meaning you're missing multiple payments, have outstanding balances on closed accounts. And so really just being responsible and understanding that you're borrowing money and that's always expected to be paid back, making your minimum payments, paying a little bit more than the minimum payments at times. And then I'll let Ruben go ahead and start discussing.
Yeah, so generally speaking, there's three parts to a loan that the bank looks at. And one obviously is your credit history, and that just tells us how responsible you're enough to pay things back. As you start paying loans back, your credit score increases over time. The other part is down payments. And down payments vary on different programs and different lenders. Generally speaking, they're all about the same. The rule of thumb, then this goes back to when mortgages were started, was the rule of thumb would be to put down 20%. And that avoids PMI and gets you in a better financial position because you have plenty of equity in case you'd have to sell right away. But also selfishly, 20% is a magic number for if a bank has to foreclose. That takes into account of the person's time to foreclose on that property and for the bank not to lose any money. But with that said, 20% is a significant amount of money to put down or save up, especially in a market like Denver. If you think a home with $300,000, which gets you, depends on where you're looking here in the area, but that's $60,000 to put down, and that's a significant amount of money to put down. But there's different options and different for different programs. Like I said, you could put down as little as 3% down for a home plus closing costs. FHA allows 3.5%. And you could put anywhere from 3 to, I guess, to 20%. And know the more you put down, the less your monthly mortgage payment will be. But know that anything less than 20%, you'll be paying PMI. What that is just another fee, monthly fee to a third-party insurance company that you'll be paying to ensure if you do foreclose, the bank will be covered for that 20% down. And additionally, for ITIN borrowers, because I know we do have some ITIN borrowers, folks that immigrants that do not have a Social Security, they are given a tax identification number, which we still do loans on with them. However, we require 25% down. If they are able to have a co-borrower such as DACA or someone with a social, they could put as little as 20% down. And the reason they require to put more down is because the bank keeps them on their books versus selling them on the secondary market, or also called as an agency loan, where we would bundle it up and sell it to investors such as brokers. That's what they do. And Zizi, towards the end of this conversation, at the end of the conversation, we'll go over the effect on different down payments and how that affects your monthly payment. So yeah, that covers down payments and products. One thing I did forget to touch on was grants. Different lenders have different opportunities for different grants for down payment assistance. Make sure you educate yourself with them, with that lender, because some change, the rules change for each different program, where some are forgiven after a certain amount of time. Some don't need to be paid off until the home is sold or you refinance, or some are paid monthly in addition to your mortgage payment. And I think there's some questions out there. Is that right? Did I read that correctly?
I just put in the chat that if anyone has any questions to put them in the chat.
No, that's perfect. Okay, this is a good stopping point for questions before Zizi continues with the mortgage process.
Yeah, and understand that we're kind of going through this a little bit faster than we did on Monday, just given the kind of examples that are going to be towards the tail end of the presentation. So feel free to, ask as many questions as you like as we go through it.
And as people are typing questions, one thing, Zizi and I are very open, and Sam and Julie could provide our contact information to everybody that's attended to have a phone call for a free consultation or any questions that people may have that weren't addressed here.
And so Sam's question here, FHA stands for the Federal Housing Administration. Back in the day, I can't remember the date as I'm not a history buck there, but they established a system to where people can get, into a mortgage with, it was kind of portrayed as kind of worsened credit or a different kind of standpoints. Instead of a straight conventional loan, there's alternative routes of obtaining financing. In this case, just recently, it was passed by the government that dreamers are able to qualify for FHA loans now. And so what that means is that if anybody has DACA out there, you're able to put down as little as 3.5% down on a home and purchase that with the regulations that have passed. And it's been proved in the past before, and it kind of has shifted back and forth. And so hopefully this one's here to stay to allow more people to get into their homes.
And one thing to note too that we didn't talk about before was the 25% for ITIN borrowers is unique to different banks. Our first bank is 25%, but our rates are standard rates, where other institutions might require 10 or 15% down. However, their rates are significantly higher in the 7, 8, 9% range. So make sure you familiarize yourself with the differences and get as much information as you can before you choose a lender, if you're going that route.
And so speaking to the question about the credit union, that is totally fine if you have a relationship with a credit union. Basically, a credit union was established to people. Ruben, you know this story better. You have been around longer than I have, so you can take that one.
Yeah, so
but there's no difference.
Credit unions have members because banks at one time couldn't cross state lines. And so different companies established credit unions, or different industries established credit unions to have members, to have them have banking opportunities. So that's, again, why they're called members. One good example is there's a Coors credit union for Coors employees at the time, but you've also heard of Teachers Credit Union, where you had to be a teacher. Now they've opened up the gates to anybody that's bankable, pretty much, to compete with banks.
And then we have another question here. The difference between FHA and conventional is truly just the requirements of obtaining the loan. Conventional loans tend to have a higher credit score threshold, to where FHA can drop down a little bit further. I think 620 is kind of where conventional loans stop to go at. And I believe 580 is where FHA loans can lend to. It does kind of adjust the interest rate that you're charged for that, though. Sam's question here of the 3.5% of the cost of the home, that's your down payment for these loans. You will pay kind of closing fees and escrows, which are taxes and insurance. We kind of create an account that allows the bank to pay your taxes and insurance for you, and we take a buffer when you close your loan. You never pay realtor fees as the buyer. I shouldn't say never. There's sometimes where you do get looped into something like that, but as a buyer, you should never pay any realtor fees. The seller pays your realtor fees out of their earnings from selling the property. So that's a nice perk of being a buyer rather than the seller. And then Dane, the question, how significant is PMI fee if you put less than 20% down? That varies depending on your credit score, depending on how much you put down. And I have a couple different scenarios that I'll speak about later in this presentation that kind of go through that. So stick around.
One thing that we didn't mention on Monday or today that's worth noting, especially in a market like Denver, is our loans are based on the lower of the purchase price or appraised value. And not to get too technical, but people are overbidding on purchase prices because of how popular the or the demand in the real estate market here. So for example, the home is listed at $300,000. The person buys it for $320,000, but the appraisal comes in at $300,000, and the appraisal is a third party opinion of what the value of the home is. If that comes in at $300,000 or $310,000, we're basing our numbers off of $300,000 or $310,000 versus the $320,000 of the purchase price. So we could do the math for you at that point, but you'll just be bringing more money to close because, again, it's based on the lower of the purchase price or appraised value.
Correct. And then what is considered an interest rate that is too high for a home is 3% the average. I guess it kind of depends on when you're purchasing it and kind of the economy around that. You know, the average right now is probably low 3%, some dropping into the 2s. Depends on kind of your situation as the borrower as well, and kind of what your financials look like, what your type of residency that you do have. But typically, I would say on average for your primary residence, you should be somewhere, you know, below 4% as a historical average. Do you concur, Ruben?
I would, and it varies for investment properties. Again, to nerd out about banking, in the early 80s, interest rates were in the high teens for mortgages. When I got in the business in 05 to 09, those interest rates were dropping from 7-8% to 5 and 6%, and people were ecstatic. So again, it's all relative and depending on what the economy is at that time. So, and it varies per person and their credit score. So, but right now, Zizi's correct. Primary residence is low 3s.
Yeah. And then you want to explain the difference between a lender and a broker?
Yeah. So essentially, we like to think we're a little bit more experts in a different realm, but essentially we do the same thing. We facilitate the mortgage process, where a broker collects the application, collects documentation based on underwriting of investors. And once that loan is closed, they get a fee, wipe their hands, and you don't hear from them again. A lender at a bank, we have 2 ways of originating loans. Same process. We get the application, collect income docs. However, a lot of times we keep the loan on our books, which means that we are your point of contact for the life of that loan until you refinance. Also, as lenders, we have a little bit better understanding of underwriting versus just what you put that in a black box, and what the black box spits out is what they collect, where we are more consultants and could guide you a little better and give you a peek to, I guess, quote unquote, how the sausage is made, right? So the back, how underwriting, how we look at different things that way.
And then the next question is, with overbidding, would you recommend looking for a house a little under budget so you can have enough to buy the home? I think that that is absolutely kind of what you should do. Given Ruben's remarks, if you go $10,000 above kind of the listing price, if the appraisal comes back at the listing price, meaning if it was on the market for 300,000 and you offered 310 and you get that and the appraisal comes in at 300, then you have to add that $10,000 to on top of whatever down payment you were originally going to put down, because you have to cover that shortage there. As he mentioned before, we go the lower of the purchase price or the value of the home. And then the next question is, are you saying if you don't have $9,000 or $10,000 available, you would not be able to buy a home at this time? There's a lot of different costs that go into purchasing your home, and so you would want to have some kind of reserves associated with that. However, there are a lot of down payment assistance programs that you can look into and obtain financing with. Some offer you, somewhere around 6%, some are 3%, and you have to put down about maybe $1,000 of your own money. Those do cover closing costs, escrows, and such. You just need to kind of put a lookout for those programs. I will be sending Sam and Julie some of the programs that we work with here at the bank, and as well as some other options that are available outside of the First Bank.
Yeah, well, one option that's very popular, and it's a good nonprofit. I believe it's nonprofit, but First Bank has worked with them previously. It's called CHAFA, Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. They have some good down payment assistance information there, including grants up to 3%. So I would look at CHFA, it's CHAFA. Just Google that, and then it'd be they have some good assistance there.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. So it looks like we hit the tail end of those questions there. Oh, another one pops up.
Hey, Perez, that's a good question. So the two parts that we've talked about alone are credit history, the down payment, which is the equity portion, we call that, and then obviously your repayment. So income definitely has impacts, is one of the major three components of a loan decision, because not only sure you get great credit history that you're paying your bills on time, you have a down payment, but the bank wants to see how are you going to continue to pay this moving forward. That's a great question.
I was asking because like us students that are still in college, the only issue is like, we don't really have an income right now, like we're still students, stuff like that. I know a lot of students are working and whatnot, but I don't know how that would work. Like if we do like, I don't know. I don't know how to word it, but like that's why I asked, like, does income, how would that look like if we're students? Like, would that be something that we address when we go to our bank and then they work from there, or how does?
So you would have to show some income of, even if it's a part-time job, but like we talked about on Mondays, being creative of maybe you have a lease or two from friends that you go to school with that will be paying you X amount to rent a room. Some banks could consider that as income as well, because that would be going towards that mortgage payment.
So like there's different ways to work around it, because I wasn't here when you did the one on Monday, obviously. I couldn't attend for whatever reason. But
right, no, absolutely. That's a great question. So you do have to have income to show, but depending on if you went with zero income and you maybe all leases and you're going to have 10 people living with you, then we might have to question that, thinking, all right, do you really want 10 people in this one bedroom apartment or condo with you, and how realistic that is? But I would talk to the lender to go with certain loan programs, but some programs don't allow that and would need to show income. So I would consult with your lender or broker.
What about like work study? Would that count? Or is that?
That would count, because you still file your taxes as work study. And so you're able to get that income.
So like, for instance, like in my particular situation, I could like take that up to my bank, because I'm a part of Denver Credit Union, as a matter of fact. And so I could talk to them more about it and let them know, like, I do have work study, and then they would be able to help me, right?
So I mean, they could possibly help you, but I mean, if I'm being quite honest, I mean, your work study job isn't going to be enough to set you up in order to get a loan and to show that ability to repay. And so, whenever you start, graduating from school and you get your offer letter for whatever job you're going into, then you can use that offer letter as your future income, and then you can get a loan based off of that. For a lot of people, I know that a lot of you have looked into purchasing homes with your families and whatnot, and this workshop is kind of tying into what the possibilities are of doing that. And income will definitely be a factor with obtaining a loan, because the whole idea of getting a loan is proven to the bank or the credit union or broker or whoever you're getting that through, to show that you have the ability to repay that mortgage, and there's not going to be really any interruptions with doing so. And so income is a big piece of what would be required.
Thank you for answering that question. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Okay. There's a couple more questions here. Let me go see. So how long do banks want you to be at your job to prove income? Typically 2 years is what's required to kind of show proof of employment. That being said, as a lot of you come out of college and you're getting your degree, you get an offer letter, then sometimes that can be substituted with your transcripts showing that you've been in school and you have an offer letter, and then they project off of that offer letter for your income moving forward. I know that's what I had to do when I first bought my place, was send in my transcripts. They're not looking at what kind of grades you got, so that's okay, but they are looking to see that you were in school full time, and that's kind of why your income wasn't where it was going to be at that time. PMI accepts that, FHA will accept that. It's a common practice for people who are usually buying their first homes. And then
one thing that we mentioned on Monday too is it's not an overnight thing for most people, including myself and ZZ. It is a hustle and a grind to get to that goal of owning a home. Some people are very fortunate to have means from parents or family that assist with a down payment, but it's not an overnight thing for most people. So keep that in mind. Yes, it's every journey is different, and I know Sam worked hard too, and eventually was successful to purchase her own home with her husband. But it's a long journey. I mean, it takes a lot of discipline. You have to know what your goals are, what you want, and where you want to stay too. So keep that in mind, that it's definitely not as easy as TV or people make it seem. So yeah, it's definitely a grind, and but it's very attainable for everybody. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about CHAFA? Is there some information that we can get? I heard some things, but I heard so many different things from. The only thing that I think for certain is that the government can help you with some down payment and possibly the closing costs. How much of a true is that? And what is the process for that, if possible?
Yeah, that's definitely true. You would first need to identify a lender who utilizes CHAFA and their ability to use the down payment assistance programs. Usually how CHAFA is shaped out to be is it's a second mortgage on your home, meaning you have two loans associated with the purchase whenever you acquire that property, and it is tied in usually simultaneously for your first loan, meaning you make your regular first mortgage payment, and then as well on top of that, sometimes you have to make that second payment that is considered your down payment assistance program. I think they go up to 6% on CHAFA. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm on their website right now, and they up to 3% of the first mortgage for down payment assistance, and no repayment required. I don't know what the requirements are to qualify for that, but it says no payment required. But however, keep in mind you still need money to close, such as your first years of insurance, your escrows, any bank fees and such that exceed that 3%. And then it says They also have a second mortgage loan up to 4%, what Zizi was talking about, and no payment is required until you refinance or the sale of your home.
Yeah.
So and that's just one option. There are different options out there, but make sure you read the fine print and look at different options for down payment assistance. But it's very unlikely that you'll be able to own a home with $0 out of your pocket. I mean, as much as that would be nice, and maybe some people have been lucky enough to do that somehow, some way, but keep in mind, you would still need a couple $1,000s for, I mean, an insurance premium for a year is about $1,100. So give or take. So, I mean, at a minimum, you're gonna have to pay that moving forward. So yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah, I heard that it could be a minimum of 1,500 out of pocket to do this program. My other question would be is there a set interest rate on this program, or it depends on the lender, or it depends on the government?
It depends on the grant provider.
So it depends on the lender or the
No,
provider.
the person that provides the grant.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two separate people that would be working on that, but usually when you're talking with your lender, they handle majority of kind of that approval process for the down payment assistance programs. But there sometimes is work that's required by you, but your lender is not typically making the approval for your down payment assistance unless it's an in-house program that they offer.
And
Yeah, and CHAFA is only one of them. So I would go in there and look at the frequently asked questions. I know there's a question if it's DACA folks qualify for that. I'm not sure. That was just one example of a grant program that we've used before.
Okay, and do you guys? And I'm asking because I'm right now in the middle of trying to get a house, trying to get a loan for a house. So I'm working with a friend. She's a lender, and she said that she has the CHAFA program, but I was wondering if I can do it through a bank as well. If I don't go through her, can I do it with, like, let's say you guys? Or is it has to be certain people, lenders, that they do that?
It's certain lenders, and unfortunately right now, First Bank is not participating with CHAFA.
Okay.
But there's a link there that says CHAFA, and there's a link for participating lenders out there. So you can get a list of folks that are working with CHAFA, for example.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry to cut everybody off, but I do have to run, but you guys are in good hands with Zizi. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Julie. Feel free to reach out. Anybody that's online, you will have my contact information from the ladies. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah.
Zizi, do you want me to read some of the questions that were earlier?
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling through there, if you wouldn't mind. I know that I
Okay.
was looking through some of them, and I think we've answered some of those questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, or from what I'm counting, the last one that I don't know if it got addressed was Mally's question. What are some things to consider when trying to get a loan from any bank to buy a house?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Some things to consider is kind of, doing your due diligence in your own financial, well-being, and making sure that you understand what you want to kind of go into, understanding what kind of payment you can take on, and kind of predetermining that. And then that way, when you go and get and start the conversation with a lender or a broker, and they're getting you pre-qualified, which means they're taking all of your financial docs, such as tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, and such, to see what you're qualified for at a high dollar amount. That amount that they're going to give you may not be in the best interest of what you should be going into. That's just kind of your max loan amount. And they'll give you kind of your monthly payment, which includes your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, otherwise known as PITI. And you need to put that into your budget and make sure that you're able to, accommodate for that, because when lenders are giving you that figure with those 4 categories. We're not including utilities, such as internet, electricity. We're not including, your cable. You're not including what some of your other payments are out that are not listed on your credit report. We're not including, your budget for what you want to do when you're traveling or anything like that. And so there's a difference in getting a loan that's suitable for you and a loan that's suitable for what you make on paper. It's not accustomed to your lifestyle to be, what they call home ownership, like being broke as a homeowner, right? You don't want to be sitting there and not able to do anything. So really understand your financial picture and understanding what you're comfortable with spending each month. Know if you're going to have, roommates that can help you with that payment, and just be aware of what you're wanting before you go and talk to a lender. Does that answer the question?
Ali, feel free to put in some follow-up questions if you don't feel like that quite answered your question, but I think it did. And I know ZZ had some sample budgets that he was going to show us in a bit. So I'll see if we can get to the rest of these questions before he shows us that. But we have another one that said, would temporary unemployment income negatively affect the lending process?
It won't negatively affect the lending process. However, that's income that we would not be able to project forward, which means that it will not be able to be used to qualify you. So I guess depending on how you look at that, negative or not, it won't hurt you if you're getting that now. If you have another job lined up with an offer letter to get to receive long-term income, but that's income that cannot be used for qualification purposes. That being said, Social Security income and stuff like that can be awarded to you. There's a 3-month or a 3-year period that we have to make sure that it is beyond 3 years from when we're closing on the loan.
Okay. Can I provide an offer letter rather than waiting 2 years to show proof of income?
Can you repeat that?
Can I provide an offer letter rather than waiting 2 years to show proof of income?
Yes, you can provide an offer letter so that will be substituted for your income without the previous 2 years. It's a very easy process. It's a lot easier if you're coming out of school and you get that offer letter. And as I mentioned before, you will send in kind of tax returns for what you've been doing. If you're just getting started, then you can still do that, but they kind of want to know what your history was before then, and there may be a few extra questions of that nature. But generally, the answer to that is yes.
Cool, thank you. Then if you want to shop different rates, what time frame would you recommend to do all of them so it only hits your credit once?
14 days. So as soon as you get a notification, I know I have alerts on my phone through like Credit Karma or Experian, TransUnion. If people don't have Credit Karma, I recommend having that because it does give you those alerts if somebody pulls your credit. It allows you to see kind of what's on your credit report, but it will let you know that somebody's pulled your credit. And I'm pretty sure the email also just lists out you have 14 days for other lenders to pull your credit without harming it.
Cool, thank you. And then ZZ, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. I think Ruben said he wasn't sure, but there was the question about if you can qualify for CHAFA if you have DACA.
I'm typing that right now.
Okay, we'll find that out for anyone who's wondering and we'll ask, but I think there was a related question about other assistance programs for people who have DACA. Do you know of any?
The down payment assistance that do? Yes, I don't know the exact names of them off the top of my head, but I will send you out a list of those that I know and that I know people have went through the process of them before. I'll send you that out shortly after the meeting if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. We'll send that in an email to you all. Just make sure that you sign in. And then I think this is almost our last question. How much would we need down with these programs?
So that is kind of depending on the program. Each one is kind of different. I think the average is probably anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500. That's being kind of the least. However, if you have one that covers 3%, and then you bring $1,500, 3% might cover just your down payment. There's other expenses that need to be paid, such as closing costs and escrows. As we mentioned a couple times now, a good estimate is to estimate for about $6,000 above what you're putting down on the property. So that 1,500 would fall a little bit short of that excess 6,000. So you may need to come up with a little bit more money.
About how much would that be? I'm sorry, I'm the one that asked that question. Thanks, Zizi.
Yeah, so it all depends. I mean, the price to close a mortgage varies depending on which lender you go to. I know for us, our average closing costs with 0 points on your rate is about $3,200, give or take. That's a kind of high estimate. That's what I kind of quote my borrowers. And then if you're escrowing for taxes and insurance, a good estimate to use is $3,000. So that would give you about $6,200 on top of what your down payment is. And so again, if you got 3% down payment assistance programs, that's wonderful. And then you would just need to cover that's $6,200 to close the loan out. And you don't have to have all that money round up right at the beginning. You need to be pretty close, but the closing process usually takes about 30-35 days. If you get another check that's coming in, a week after you go under contract and you're confident that you're going to meet that, then you should be good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Zizi, I'm counting 5 more questions. Do you want me to save them until after you show us what you're going to show us, or would you like to answer them now?
Let's go one more and then we can roll in. I think we have until 45, right? So we have about 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do one more and then let's go through the next steps because I'm sure there'll be questions there as well.
Okay, cool. So the last one I will ask for right now is, what is a good credit score to begin the process?
Yeah, so we like to tell borrowers that are inquiring about that to, obviously the best credit score is going to be the best situation. And in this next exercise, I'll show you how your credit score kind of changes what your monthly payments are. But anywhere from, you can get a loan as little as 580, but you traditionally want to try to be, 620 or above to stay inside of conventional route.
Thank you. Thanks for answering all of our questions.
Yeah, of course. And then if there's any other questions, also, if we run out of time as going through the next ones, then you all can feel free to generate a Q&A thing and we can type out some questions to send it out to the group if needed. All right, so we'll go ahead and roll into, what do you all want to start with? Let's start with budgeting. I'm going to show you kind of a little bit more simplified version of my budget that I actually use. So bear with me as I get this pulled up. And if something happens, Sam's going to swoop in and be the unsung hero here to help me out with all of this. My first or second Zoom meeting now, so it's pretty cool. So we go share screen.
Thank you, Zizi.
Share one screen here. Okay, can everybody see my screen? I see it on my phone. I'll zoom in a little bit here. But before I zoom in, I just want to point out a few different factors, and I put in some pre-populated numbers here just for the sake of time to kind of play with it. I will zoom into the left side first. This area is going to be kind of your income and expenses catalog, and I also threw a formula in there for what your DTI will be at, which is debt to income. And then in the middle section, this larger piece here, this is a tool that allows you to calculate your net income and savings after you use all of your expenses. So this is very crucial for me when I plug in different debts that I have or different things that I owe on that don't have necessarily, monthly payments because I'm paying them down quickly. So I know where I need to get to kind of clear off all my debts right now because that's what I'm actually focused on doing. And then down below here is going to be your debts listed out. And so as you can see here, I put in here First Bank, US Bank, car, and you can kind of put in whatever you want. So I'll zoom in and come over to this side. Maybe I should go a little bit more. All right, can everybody see this side okay? Thumbs up, Sam? Okay, cool. So this is your income section here. And so here you put in, I kind of put in my salary after tax. This is this would equal to, I don't know. So this is basically once you all get out of college here, you can put in, say if you're getting 55,000 divided by 26 checks, but we're going to do 24 checks for one reason, and I'll show you why. So this is one check here, and then you're going to multiply this by 2 and say this is your salary after tax. So that's how I got to that number. I used 4,500 to get round there. And then that's your monthly income after taxes. So we don't want to budget for something that we don't see, because taxes automatically get taken out of your checks. And then down here, I add a source or any other income that you may have. If you have another side job that you're getting money from, if you have whatever you're doing that's getting money, it should go there. So you plug that in there, you get your total here. And then student loans, I plugged in 200 here, and then I added this estimated rent / mortgage. This is one mortgage figure that I pulled out from the next spreadsheet that we'll go over. So you plug this piece in here. Your credit cards payments go here, car payments. Roman, that's my dog. And so I budget for his food in there for every 2 months. He's a little old guy, so not much going on there. You'd put in your car insurance. So if that's, it's $75 a month. Hulu, Netflix traditionally costs you about 11 or 12, 59 after tax, something like that. You put in your music, your gas that you're using, groceries, and you kind of just fill this all out if you want to be very meticulous. I see people that send this to kind of change one of these categories, or simply just insert a new row here, and they plug in kind of savings account. And then they put in a dollar figure here that they're automatically going to take out of their budget, and then use a different, use this net income to pay off other stuff while they're still saving their money. I threw down here this DTI figure. You want to pay close attention to this. This number is calculated based off of these figures that are on your credit report that will show kind of what your monthly obligations are, and it's related to your salary. And so all this formula is here. If you can see this, you take the sum of all of these numbers, and then you divide that by your income, and you get a DTI. Traditionally, you want to try to keep your DTI below 45% or below as you're purchasing your first home. Sometimes it can flex up a little bit, but you primarily want to get that to 45%. And so as you can see here, we're not at 45%. So, hey, I need to either, cut down some of my expenses here, or maybe, maybe this loan amount is too high for what I'm shooting for. Maybe my car payment's not there, but hey, I have what do I have here? I have $6,000 left on my car payment. So I roll over to this side of my budget here. This is the amounts that I owe here. And so as you can see, this car payment up here, the 6,000. If you change this down here to 5,000, and that changes up there. These categories go change, so it's really nice for me. It just plugs and goes. And so say, all right, hey, I'm getting my tax return here. I'm not including that into my budget, so I'm able to calculate this. It adds it to my net income, and you can start playing with it. And so I'm going to say, hey, I need to get my DTI down, so I'm going to pay off my car a little quicker. So I'm going to pay $2,000 to my car. That number decreases, this decreases, monthly savings and drops down $2,000 there. And so you really plug this away until you can kind of work it down. The only thing that I would say is kind of negative about this is it doesn't live update for me. I know Mint, they do live updatings, and they kind of track what you're spending on into budget. So if you're spending too much on your you're going out to eat or whatnot, this is kind of just more helping you pay down your debts, understand kind of what your monthly savings are at each month. And then once you figure out kind of how much you need, you would make a new formula here that equals, the sum of, all of these bottom figures. And then that tells you how much money you'll have at each given month. But you go through here and you assess each payments that you're going to make for all of your debts that you list out here. And then you can kind of track it a little bit better. And then when you plug in this mortgage here, you don't have this yet at this point, but this is plugging something in here that can let you see how much you're going to have each month to play with while you're shopping for your mortgage or understanding what's a comfortable amount for you to get as a loan. Kind of a lot, maybe not for some people, but it's really just what's best for you, so you can truly identify kind of what monthly payment you can have. And this adds in all the expenses and everything that you would do each month that the bank doesn't look at. So it's really a better tool for yourself to be comfortable with a certain payment. So then we can go ahead and see if there's any questions.
I don't see any about this specific part, but if you had some questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can unmute.
Thank you, Julie, for dropping in the mint there.
Zizi, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Can you show us the Excel document of what 45% would look like? Because you
Can I
said
show
it.
you that?
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
didn't understand that part.
Okay. Are you saying kind of what it would look like in terms of your like finances that I have here as examples?
Yes, because you said something about it shouldn't be over 45%, and the one that was the example is.
Yeah.
And I
so,
was like,
okay.
how did you know that?
So as I mentioned here, well, let me zoom in so you can kind of see it a little bit better.
Okay.
So this formula, it's really simple. Don't let all these things up here fool you, but it's really just adding these 4 sections
Mhm.
up, because this is what's going to be reported on your credit report. So it's any loans that you have, any payments that are reported to there. So it's on credit cards, student loan payments, car loans, lines of credits, and so forth. And so you add up these monthly payments that you have, and then you divide it by your total income. And so that's all I did down here. Is just
now I see.
these numbers divided by this number, and you get this 53%. And so as I was showing here, if you continued this forward, and so since you have $2,000 left over here, you can pay $3,000 here, and then you can go over here and pay this other $2,000 off. And now your car loan's paid off. So that means that this is gone. And then now you're at 47.9%. And so now you're close to that. And then if you pay off, your credit cards, because you still have the $1,797 here, so you pay $300 and you pay $500 this month, and then you pay the other $500 here. Then you go over here and take these, zero it out, and that changes your budget here. And now we're at 46.8. So we're minimizing down.
I see.
Yeah. And then now if you have your co-borrower that I remember somebody was asking with their partner wanting to purchase a home, you can add in somebody else's income here, and then you just add in, say they have $45,000, and then this would be after tax. Of course, make sure that you do that divided by 4. So you're at 8,333. That drops us way down, but they have $150 in credit card monthly debt. They have a $260 loan, and say student loan payments is now $500 per month. Now you're at 34% DTI still, so you're still good. And so you can kind of plug in, put this however you want, if somebody's going on a loan with you or just by yourself. Obviously, as young adults, especially for you folks that are still going to school, this may look a little intimidating for you, but I think that the importance is that you're looking at things like this and trying to grasp an understanding of that for when you start to work and you get out of college, you set yourself up for a little bit more success than what you had without paying attention to these items now.
Cool. Thank you. I think that makes more sense to me. And then we did get some questions in the chat.
Yeah, heading to those now. I'm getting to be a pro at this. All right.
You're doing awesome.
All right, let's see some questions. So does the amount of your student loans affect if you will get approved for a mortgage, or does the lender just really look at the timely payments? The answer is yes. So that's why on that budget, I had that payment there because that's something that's going to be reported on your credit report, and you're going to be assessed that payment because you can't just skip your student loan payments. You need to make sure that you get those paid as well. They're tracked. You would want to make those in a time like now when pretty much all student loans are deferred and there's no payments necessary right now. They go off, they get kind of erased off your credit report as it cycles, and it just shows that you owe a balance, but there's no payment. You would need to supply what your monthly payment was prior to the deferral, or as you're coming out of school. So this is more in line with most of you all. If you're coming out of school and you don't know what your payment is yet because you get, that 6-month deferral time from graduating. Sometimes you get 3 more months. I know I took advantage of that. You can request to see what your actual payment will be. And we assess that payment, because otherwise we take a 3% of your loan balance and put that as your payment. And that is a lofty payment to what you're probably not paying. So you want to make sure that you know exactly how much you're paying and offer that to your lender. All right, and then for the example, what is the total loan amount you would be borrowing? We will get to that on the next sheet here. We'll get to that very soon, Vanessa. And then Jose, what is a prepayment penalty, and do most loans and mortgages have it? No. Prepayment penalty means if you pay off your loan too quick, or you pay it off completely, then you're assessed a penalty. All residential mortgages and loans do not have prepayment penalties. So if you originate a loan and you pay it off quicker, say if you do it with me, I'm going to give you a high five because I don't have to worry about that file anymore. And that saves you a lot of money too. The faster you pay it off, the less interest you make. So work towards that. Is it better to have student loans completely paid off before attempting to get a home loan? I would say that question varies. It varies amongst your circumstances. Sometimes it's better to have more cash because you can use that for the down payment compared to paying everything off and then trying to work to get money. You may not need to pay everything off. So it's best to, come in and talk with a lender or mortgage broker to see what your qualification standpoint is before you start paying things off. I know I've had a couple of friends that have paid everything off, and then now they had to wait longer to get a home whenever they could have kept, more than half or 75% of the debts that they did have. And they could have been in that home a little bit quicker. So, but for some people, it's the peace of mind of having everything kind of paid off before you go and take a larger loan out. And that's totally up to you, but it's not totally necessary. All right, and that looks like I think I got through the rest of those questions there. So keep them coming, everybody. But I will go ahead and start on some examples of what your loan would look like. So I know there's good questions about this. I've been promising it, so here we go. Screen one, boom. All right. All right, so I have going over this just like I did the last time, give a brief explanation of this. This left column here is going to be 30-year fixes, down payments of 3%, 10%, and 20% with credit scores of 740. The second column is going to be 30-year fixed loans with 3%, 10%, and 20% down with credit scores of 680 through 699. And then this next column is going to be 20% down with our portfolio products, and a 25% down for I-10 borrowers and people interested with what that would look like. The next one is a 15-year option with 20% down, and then 15-year option 25% as the I-10 borrower standpoints there as well. So we'll zoom in. And hopefully all my formulas stay. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're looking, oh, is it still moving? Okay. So we're looking in this quadrant here, the top left. And so this is 30-year fixed loan with your 3% down credit score of 740 plus. That payment that was on that budget, I took that from this payment here. And so our purchase price in all these situations are $350,000. 3% of 350,000 is 10,500, which means your loan amount would be 339,500. Your interest rate on 30-year fixed right now would be 3.375%. And these are all from this morning. I went and did this all this morning. So these are up-to-date rates for what today's were. Your principal interest payment would be $1,500.92. That is just the payment for just the loan itself. And then with having less than 20% down, you have your PMI or private mortgage interest payment of $164.09. And then your estimated taxes and insurance payments that you'd be escrowing in would be $283.22 per month, with a total payment of $1,948.23. And so now you look at compared to 3% down, all the same numbers. Your total payment with 10% down drops to $1,711. So as you can see, that's almost $37 difference. The reason being is the interest rate dropped to 3%, and your private mortgage interest drops down to $99.75 compared to $164. So you dropped a significant amount there by being able to put some more money down. And I apologize, this is not private mortgage interest, it's private mortgage insurance. So I'll get that updated before this gets sent out. And then this last one here is kind of what would be ideal for everybody if we all had this nice amount of cash available, which we all don't, and I don't either. I have PMI on my loans, just FYI as well. It's a great program. It costs a little bit more money, but it's worth it. Same purchase price. Your down payment here is $70,000 with 20% down. And I apologize, up here, 10% down would have been $35,000 down. So you have 20% down here, and your loan amount's $280,000, interest rate 3%. Principal interest payment for just the loan is $1,180.49. No PMI insurance, so this one is gone. Estimated taxes and insurance is still the same, that never changes. And your total payment drops all the way down to $1,463.71. This next column here, this is all, again, the left column that we just went over is all, again, that's with 740 plus credit scores. So kind of the excellent credit history. The next column here is with 680 through 699, the same purchase price, kind of, if you look side by side, it's the same kind of structure. 3% down in this first section here. Your loan amount would still be $339,500. Interest rate is the same here for what this one spit out to $740, so that's nice. Principal interest payment the same. Now look at your PMI payment. It's over $110 more than what you would pay if your credit score was above 740. So that's to relay back to Monday's discussions and kind of what we talked about now. The best credit score that you can have is the ideal. So you'd want to work on that and try to get that up before you kind of go into purchasing a home. Not necessarily necessary, but 277 compared to 164 is a hefty amount. Taxes and insurance would still be the same, and then your total payment comes out to $2,061.40 compared to that $1,948. And then, so as you have the same kind of credit score range, but you put 10% down, your interest rate would drop to 3.125% compared to the 3.375. And your private mortgage insurance also drops down by $107 by putting 7% more down, or 10% total. And your total payments comes out to $1,803.23. So you're kind of getting closer to what it would be for a perfect score there. The next column here, same situation, 3.125% interest rate with a 20% down. So that's $70,000 again. No private mortgage insurance there. And so your estimated tax and insurance is the same for all these scenarios again. Now you're at $1,482.67 for this payment here. Let's go over here. So this next column, this is a portfolio product that First Bank offers. You can get them other places as well. Portfolio means that it's all loans are held on our books. and we don't sell them off to the secondary market. It's easier to kind of understand your financials and get you approved in a good product for what's worth for you. And we have a little bit more leeway of how we look at things on the portfolio. Same situation here. Actually, before I begin, the firm 7, that stands for fixed initial rate mortgage, and the 7 is the allotted time. So what this means is your interest rate is going to be fixed at this 3% for the first 7 years of the mortgage, and then after that, it's eligible to adjust. It adjusts based off of a couple different factors. That is a lot larger conversation to go into. However, we do offer modification programs to where you can relock that rate in without refinancing it. And so basic level, you're fixed for 7 years. Here, you go $70,000 down with 20% down here. So this is looking at, this option could be used for I-10 borrowers getting a loan with somebody who has full U.S. citizenship or a DACA recipient. You can put down 20% down, which is $70,350. Interest rate of 3%. Principal interest payment would be the $1,180.49. And then there's no PMI on this since you have 20% down. And since there's an if there was an I-10 borrower on this one, you can't go below 20%. So that's where we're dropped at this threshold, and your total payment is $1,463.71. Down here is the instance if you had 25% down, and this is strictly, if I put this in here, if it's just an I-10 borrower, and they don't have somebody that has that's a DACA recipient or a U.S. citizen, then your down payment would be $87,500, so $17,500 more than the 20%. Loan amount $262.5. 3% interest rate. Principal insurance is principal interest is $1,106.71. Same taxes and insurance, and your total monthly payment drops down to $1,389.93. So you can see this payment's way better than this one, and it's way better than all of these because this is 25% down. So the more you put down, the better your rate will be. Coming to this final one. This is a lot of people asked about 15-year fixes on Monday, so we kind of went through some in here. This is 15-year fixed with 20% down, same down payment, same loan amounts. Interest rate is 2.625. Principal interest is $1,883. Same taxes, insurance. Your total payment is $2,166 with 20% down. And so this payment here is almost double of what you would have paid with 20% down here. I guess $700 more. So it's quite more intense because you don't have a longer term for your mortgage. So for people that weren't here on Monday, a 15-year fixed mortgage means that when you start the loan and you get it originated, it is completely paid off in 15 years. Whereas these other options are 30-year loans, meaning you start the loan and then in 30 years you have it completely paid off. And as Jose was asking, there's no prepayment penalty on any of these. So feel free to pay them off as soon as you want. You can pay them down more to not pay as much interest, which a lot of people opt for this 15-year fixed, especially now since the rates were really low. The amount of interest that you save compared to a 30-year loan is tremendous. So if that's an option later on down the road, then it's something worth something that you should look into later on. Right now, that's kind of a hefty payment. I don't have 15-year fixes. I don't think Sam has any 15-year fixes. They're pretty drastic, right? So, keep the payments minimal while we can to keep ourselves from going underwater on payments. And then 15-year fixed, 25% down. This again, which is I-10 borrowers on here. Anybody could put down 25% if they want. Anybody could put down as much as they want, but this is kind of the minimum down payment again that an I-10 borrower by themselves can put down. And so you see your payment here, all the same figures. Payment comes out to $2,049 compared to $2,166. And then here below kind of just gave you a little quick synopsis. Closing costs, like I mentioned earlier, roughly $3,200. Estimated escrows, which include your tax insurance escrow accounts, is around $3,000. So you're looking at $6,200 plus your down payment to be in a safe range. So for example, the $6,200, if you went this 3% down, would be plus this 10,500. So you're looking at $16,700 in order to acquire this loan if you're qualifying. And so that just goes to show, you get these figures and you come back and you plug them in to what you're looking at to make sure that you are adequately able to service that payment while you're paying all of your other personal items. Like I said, nobody wants to be just cash broke all the time, even if you can qualify for a mortgage. So I'll take any questions from there. Ooh, I need some water.
Thank you, Zizi. We do have some questions from earlier I wanted to make sure we got asked. Is there ever a case where a rent to own situation would be recommended?
That's a great question. That's been going around a lot. That's been around through many years. In my personal and professional opinion, I would say no. The reason being is that contract that you can sign with somebody for saying that you're going to be able to rent to own it, if you miss payments, if you're late on something, or if you don't abide by something, then they can cancel that whole contract, and then your money kind of just gets washed away. There is instances that we have seen it work in the past, but I know since I've been at the bank, that's kind of been a kind of no-go there. It's always it's safer to keep your money and then go and purchase something, maybe work an agreement out to purchase it at said date, but you're not, banking on having a higher payment for your rent, because that's typically what happens is your rent is increased and you're kind of putting money into their pocket additionally from what their mortgage is, and it can get kind of messy, to say the least. So.
Okay. And then another question okay, that one was already answered. Someone was curious as to how many borrowers are able to actually put down the full 20%.
I don't actually think that there's a limit, but it depends. And so whoever's asking this question, are you asking if they're going to be on the loan, or providing, just the money to put down on the property?
I think that was my question. I guess I was wondering, is it really common that people are able to put 20% down payment for first-time home buyers, or is it more typical that you're doing like 10 and the 5 and 3%?
Yeah, I'd say definitely first-time home buyers. It's not very typical for people to put down 20% down. I have seen that in my tenure here at the bank. That comes from various ways. Sometimes you get gift funds from your parents, or sometimes they've been saving for years. I've seen somebody that comes in, they're 30 years old, been working since they've been like 20, and had enough to purchase a condo with 20% down. And so it's definitely possible, but typically first-time home buyers are going to be going through 5%, 10%, maybe 3%. That's just kind of the way the world works. It sucks. It feels like it's kind of out of reach. But I mean, they used to not allow that back in the day. And these programs like PMI and FHA and, these down payment assistance programs have helped anchor that as home prices have kind of started to go up. And it's really been effective to get people, young adults into homes, and you pay a little bit more now. There's a tool that I need to find that I'm going to send out to you that shows you if you should buy now or if you should wait. And if you answer those questions honestly, more than times not, it says to buy now rather than wait for your down payment because of how much you spend during that time while you're on rent, while you're waiting to save as well. So does that answer your question? I went off on a little tangent. I apologize.
No, that was great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And then another question was for the Excel document where you were showing the examples for your monthly payment. They wanted to know if those estimates were just for First Bank or all banks.
The ones that we went over for the options, those were just our products that we have, just a few of them. I mean, looking at the setup of them, I think that's definitely industry wide. Everybody's going to be looking for taxes and insurance. There may be different estimates of it. If that was your rate, then that would be there. There's definitely other places that have, different rates, better rates. Depends on kind of the situation. Our rates and these options that I gave you also, they're kind of the simplest options that didn't cost you more money. When you find out when you're going to purchase a home and your interest rate, there's always going to be an option to buy down the interest rate. I should go this way. And it costs you more origination. So that's just a whole lot of other conversation there. But typically, this is what you would kind of see whenever you're shopping for a loan or a home.
Okay. The next question is $350,000 may be the lowest amount you would pay for a home in Denver?
I think that's a fair statement. Kind of just where the market's going. But there's always little pockets for single family homes that you can kind of find something that's a little bit cheaper. If you know people that are moving out, you can go on contract with somebody that you know. There's also condo options, purchasing a condo. So it's kind of like an apartment, but you own it. You can buy a home that way. Those can be, anywhere in the twos to 300s. Townhomes are also available that are, a little less than 350. And so this is kind of just I would say kind of towards the lower bottom of a single family home in today's market.
Are there any low income options for home buying like Section 8, but for help purchasing a home?
There are properties that are considered low income housing it's kind of listed as income restricted properties. And so you have to make under a certain amount of money and you can go and purchase that property. There's a lot of different restrictions on those properties. So I would advise if anybody's going into a property like that to read the restrictions and guidelines in terms of what the qualification standpoints are. And then also in the end game, if you were to sell that property, I know there's restrictions on earning kind of the gain that you would have received from appreciation as well. So just be well defined with looking at those options.
The next question was, if you have two people applying for a loan, is it better for both parties to be over the age of 21?
No, the age doesn't matter as long as everybody's over 21, over 18. Then you can go and apply. The main things that are going to happen with both parties, we're just still going to check incomes, we're still going to ask asset questions, and then pull credit on each party to see what the qualification is together.
Okay, and then I think the last one is, can you do a loan for longer than 30 years?
No, not traditionally. If you ever put in a loan that's longer than 30 years, you don't want to be in that situation, and that's very uncommon.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the last question.
I just have one quick question if I can.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think I read somewhere where, like, let's say the payment is 1,000, and if you do 1,500, that other 500 goes straight to the principal. Is that true?
It can be. You have to ask whoever originates that note or your loan, kind of what those details are. I know for First Bank, if your payment was $1,000 and you made a $1,500 payment, we keep 500 of that payment, that excess 500, in an unapplied category. And once you make another $1,500 payment or an additional 500 to match that full payment, then we will pay that down to principal. So you kind of had to make a full payment in order to go straight to principal. I think that's pretty common within the industry, but I think that there could be some other places where it will allow you to pay piece by piece. It just kind of messes up the amortization if you go kind of a couple extra $100 and it goes and processes to your loan. Yeah.
I get you. Okay.
Any other questions? I have a few more minutes, so if anybody has questions, feel free.
No questions, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's very helpful.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll still hang out for questions, but if you can, use your clap emoji. It's on the little reactions button that has a smiley face. And let's say thank you to ZZ for being here for us. This was great. We
Thanks,
had to have
Susie.
questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ZZ. And thank you all for being here. I put a link to our website, our Instagram, and our email. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. And Julie will be sending you all a follow-up email with some of the info we discussed today, and then we'll send you our recordings as well. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
All right, bye. Talk to y'all later.
Bye,
I will get
ZZ.
you. I will get you what you need from me. You need to get the down payment assistance programs that for DACA, right?
Mhm.
And then there was one other thing that I need to get to you.
The tool for buying now or to wait, I think.
Yes, yes. Buying now or waiting. I think
And
that's
the
straight on the
templates, the
injury.
spreadsheet stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get that sent to everyone
Yes,
that
indeed.
came to. So make sure you're signed in too.
Yeah, I think ZZ said there was one thing on the template you needed to update.
Yeah, I'm just gonna change. I'm gonna change that from interest to insurance. I did that at like 6 in the morning. Okay, so don't judge me.
No, we appreciate it. That was such the perfect visual because it made more sense to see it. So that was awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope it helped out. And then as always, if anybody has any more questions that roll into there, like I mentioned, you all can, I'm looking up here because my screen's, you can feel free to send us a list of questions and we can answer through those, and you can submit those into your blog, or I don't know how you do it with your students, or send them out mass email.
Yes, thank
And
you.
you said that if we missed Monday, that if we signed in today, we can still get the recording from Monday.
At least that will actually be uploaded onto our YouTube channel, which I think the link
Okay.
for that was shared. So just subscribe to it, and then you should get notifications when new ones are uploaded. But that should be uploaded by sometime next week.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Cool.